Hello everyone, my name's Mr. Bullet on Fire 12 and welcome back to another Call of Duty Advanced Warfare video and part 2 of my review slash sharing my thoughts and opinions on this game. Now in part 1 of the review I cover what I think about the campaign, Exo Survival and Exo Zombies, and if you haven't seen that video I shall link it down in the description so you can go check that out of what I say about those things. And here in part 2 we're just going to be covering the multiplayer, because I said in the first part that most of the things I was writing about were in multiplayer, and that is going to probably take up a lot of time if I were to stick all of that in one video. So I decided we'll put those 3 things in one video and the multiplayer can just be its own part, because there's a lot to talk about. I've definitely written quite a lot of notes. So without further ado, let's get on with part 2, which of course is just going to be on the multiplayer, and that's the last thing to talk about. So I'm going to start off just telling you guys what happened when I first saw the multiplayer trailer for this game, before this game even was out. I remember there was this one part on the trailer where there was a guy running around with a knife, and then the guy he was chasing double jumped in the air, dashed backwards, and then killed him. And that was obviously my first experience seeing what the exosuit movement system would be like in this game. And I'll admit I wasn't too sure if I was keen on the idea for it. I thought this is not going to be a COD game with everyone just flying around everywhere. I just wasn't sure if that was the Call of Duty I wanted to have for this year, and just to play. And when I first got this game, I mainly stuck to the classic mode. That's all I ever played until really I think when the first DLC came out, and that's when I sort of had to go into the EXO playlist. I might have done it maybe a couple of times before, but I definitely remember having to go into the EXO playlist, obviously, to play the new maps. And then after time went on, I just sort of played in the EXO playlist a bit more, and I just kind of got used to it. I mean, this is what Sledgehammer obviously wanted with their game. They wanted to bring out this new movement system, which was a bit of a risk and a bit of a gamble, because it wasn't sure how it was going to work, but that's sort of the vision they wanted with this game. Was this is how their futuristic game was going to be. It was going to have these exosuits, and this is how the game was going to be played. And as time's gone on, I've kind of grown to the exosuits. I don't mind them as much, but I do still prefer Call of Duty when it's still just normal classic, just running around on the ground, just shooting people. But I don't mind this game with the exosuits. I'm okay with them. Okay, so now I've written down a lot of bullet points of stuff that I do like and dislike with the game, so I'm going to start with the dislike section first. And the first point I've written down here is ASM1 plus Val 27. And I don't really need to explain this point in too much detail, because I'm sure you can all understand what I'm talking about here, that these 2 guns were the most overused and most overpowerful guns in this game. These 2 guns were way too powerful, and everyone in the community was basically saying these guns need to be nerfed. I can remember so many videos where people I'm subscribed to were saying that these two guns are just way too powerful, and for some people it was just ruining their experience with the game. They just weren't enjoying it, getting into lobbies where people were just running around with these 2 guns, and that's all they would ever see. And it just wouldn't allow you to use other guns that you wanted to use, because these 2 guns just dominated the game. I mean, there are some guns like the EM1, EPM3, MK14 that I can think of that these guns would just be useless against those 2. And in hardcore, if you play in hardcore mode, it's fine. But if you don't want to play in hardcore and you want to play in the normal playlist, well, you're not going to have a good time, because these 2 guns definitely needed nerfing. And the nerfs they put out for these guns just weren't enough. They just didn't do enough to balance the game out a bit more. That's definitely one of the key things that Sledgehammer needs to work on with their next game, is weapon balancing, because they can learn from experience that these 2 guns were definitely not okay the way they were. They definitely should have been nerfed. Next point, DLC was brought out wrong. And what I mean by that is I don't agree with the way they brought out the DLC for the game. when the new multiplayer maps came out for all the DLC, they just made a specific playlist for people to play in, and you could either play in the Team Deathmatch option or Mosh Pit, where you were forced to just play a bunch of game modes that really you didn't really want to play, because Team Deathmatch is too boring, and then Mosh Pit, you've got some good game modes in there, like Domination, Kill Confirmed, but then you've got other game modes like Hardpoint and Uplink, which I don't really want to play. They're okay game modes, but they're not the ones I want to play in. So it's just really annoying for when these maps come out, that really I can have the most enjoyment with them when the next DLCs come out and these maps have finally moved over into the normal map rotation. Whatever happened to the days where a new map pack would come out and these maps would just be automatically put into the map rotation and you didn't have to worry about a new playlist? You could just search for a game as normal instead of having to go to a specific playlist to play these new maps. Now I think I'm right in saying that back in Black Ops they did the same thing. They brought out a specific playlist for you to actually play in these new maps if you just wanted to play the new maps, but they still gave you the option of having the new maps put out into the normal map rotation. And I think that's the way they should have done it. They definitely should have done it. If people wanted to play on just the new maps, then they can have that, that's fine. But they should still be available in the normal map rotation, so then you can actually play on the game modes you want to play on. Because I think they did that all wrong. It definitely should have been like it was in the old days. And if people wanted just to play on the new maps in that specific playlist, that's fine, they can have that. But they definitely should have had it like it was in the old way. Next, some perks just felt absolutely useless. Like, some of the perks I've got listed down here are Fast Hands, Overcharged, Gung Ho, Danger Close. These are perks I don't, or to be honest, rarely ever put on my class. I can't remember the last times I ever used Fast Hands or Gung Ho. I've used it a few times on a shotgun class because I got told it's actually pretty good on it, and it wasn't that bad. Fast Hands, I can't remember the last time I used Fast Hands. I remember using it on I think it was a heavy weapons class, like the EPM3, because I found it switching was too slow. So I think it was that weapon, but I wanted to be able to switch to my secondary quicker, because otherwise if I missed my shot and I had to reload, that would help. But I definitely think that some of these perks were just completely useless and they shouldn't have been in the game at all. I mean, I would have liked to have seen Steady Aim and definitely Sleight of Hand in this game. Sleight of Hand is definitely one of the most important perks in Call of Duty, and I don't understand why Sledgehammer did not put it in their game. Reloading a gun like the Amelie or the Pytek, that takes time, and with Sleight of Hand that would have helped so much. Really on any heavy weapon, to be honest, and yet they did not put it in their game. I don't understand that. I definitely would have got rid of Fast Hands, Gung Ho, Danger Close, Overcharge. I definitely would have got rid of all of those perks and put Steady Aim and Sleight of Hand, because I definitely would have liked to have had Steady Aim in there, because the hip fire sometimes is just not very accurate. I know you can use the laser sight, even then I've still had situations where the hip firing is not very good. So Steady Aim and Sleight of Hand, I definitely would have liked to have seen that in this game. Those are two perks I definitely like using, and they should have been in the game. Actually though, this is still on the perk topic, I think there's some perks were just completely laid out wrong. And what I mean by that is, if you look at perk 1, the tier 1 perks, you got the really good one, like low profile. That's the perk I'd say I use the most from tier 1, and then also using lightweight and flat jacket, of course, because they're two very good perks as well. From tier 2, definitely blind eye. That's the best perk in that tier. And then depending on your preference, you may want to use cold blooded and peripherals. But then you look at tier 3 and you've got blast suppressor, you've got toughness, you've got scavenger, you've got hardline and hardwired. I mean, these are all extremely good perks, but they're all bunched together in that tier. And most of the time I end up using the same perks over and over again, which are mainly from tier 3, toughness and blast suppressor, and then sometimes depending on what weapon I use, if I need to have ammo, then I'll put scavenger on instead. But I just found it silly how they put those perks in that tier, all of them. I don't understand. did someone at Sledgehammer think it was alright for them to do that? Because I don't think it was, and other people have said that before as well. That the tier 3 perks, they're all very good, but they should have been spread out better. And actually, one last thing I forgot to mention, actually, with some perks that are feeling useless, overcharged. I did say that was one perk that I would be happy to get rid of, but at the same time, I think that's a perk that could be improved, because what that perk is meant to do, it's meant to allow you to have whatever extra ability you've selected in your class. It's there for it to last a little bit longer, but in my experience, when I've used Overcharge, and it's not very many times because I find it very useless and just a stupid perk to use, it doesn't make the ability last that much longer, to be honest. I don't really see too much of a difference. What it should do is, when the ability runs out, say you're using Exostim, when you've run out of Exostim, that perk should just slowly recharge it back up again, so then you can still use it on that same life. Because if you want to still keep using your Exo ability for that match, and it runs out, you have to die to then be able to use it again. And I think that's stupid. Overcharge should either should have been removed from the game, or just improved so that you can have the ability lasting longer and it will recharge once it's run out. That's the way Overcharge should have worked, in my own opinion. This next one I'm going to talk about is something that I've personally thought. I don't know about other people, but I just don't understand why, if you don't use Blast Suppressor, why is it that you'll be seen on the map if you're jumping around with your exosuit? I don't understand why they did that in this game. Why did they have to make a perk to allow you to not be seen on the map if you're just jumping around with your exosuit? I just thought that was a bit silly, because it just if you want to play in the Exo playlist, which, to be honest, is everyone, because no one really plays it in Classic mode anymore. If you want to play the Exo playlist, you are basically forced to use Blast Suppress, and I don't like that. I don't see why, just because we've got exosuits now, that they have to make you show up on the map and you have to use a perk so that you're not going to get seen. I think that it just does force you to use Blast Suppressor. I don't mind using the perk, it's still a very good perk, but I just don't think when they made this game that they should have said, right, if you don't use Blast Suppressor, you can be seen on the map. They shouldn't have done it that way. They should have just left it normally, I guess. It shouldn't have mattered. That's what I personally felt. I don't know if other people felt that way, but I definitely feel like that you shouldn't have been seen on the map if you didn't have Blast Suppressor. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the way that the advanced supply drops work when you're leveling up. Obviously, this wasn't straight away, this was through an update when they added in advanced supply drops in the game, but when you level up, you're going to get an advanced supply drop every so often. And you get one at level 1, once you've chosen Prestige, you get one at level 1, then you get one at level 20, 30, 40, and then you won't get your next one until you're Prestige again. Again, I think that should have been changed so that if you Prestige, yeah, you could get one, that's cool, and then you should be getting one at level 10. Just because you got one at level 1 doesn't mean I shouldn't get one at 10. It should, in my opinion, it should have been you get one at level 1 once you Prestige, level 10, 20, 30, 40, and you should get one at level 50 as well. Because sometimes the transition from that procedure on to the next one can sometimes take a while depending on what game you're playing. So then you have to wait ages for you to proceed to get that next advanced supply drop. So that's what I would have done. Level 1, 10, 20, 30, 40 and 50, that's when you should get your advanced supply drops for leveling up. Next thing I'll talk about is when they added more prestiges into the game. I personally don't agree. I'm one of those people that doesn't like the idea of adding in more prestiges, because it just means you've got to keep working harder to get to the final prestige then. Some people may have been really close to Master Prestige. I wasn't close to Master Prestige when they announced this, but some people may have been close, and they were thinking, yeah, we finished leveling up, and then all of a sudden, no, adding more prestige, then you've got to work even harder then to get to the finished goal. I mean, they did it in Modern Warfare 3, but the one thing I didn't actually realise at the time they even did it. I thought those prestiges were in the game originally because I got Model for 3 very late, but I still managed to get from non-prestige level 1 all the way through to 20th prestige max level before Black Ops 2 came out. I had more time to play games back then, but as time's obviously gone on, I don't have as much time as I would like to. So then for someone like me who likes getting to the top prestige in a game, for them to then say, right, we're adding more prestige in, it was a bit annoying, if I'm honest. And what was a bit silly was, it sounded good when they said, we'll give you an elite weapon if you hit this specific prestige level, if you're into the master section prestiges. That's cool, but then they also added in like more advanced supply drops for you to buy and then earn, and that just sort of became irrelevant because you could just, if you have the money, you could just spend it on tons of advanced supply drops and then boom, you're sorted. So I definitely thought that just became totally irrelevant, and just the idea of adding prestiges in general, I don't really agree with it. Next point is the bonus map, that if you pre-ordered this game, you would get the bonus map Atlas Gorge, which of course is the COD 4 remake of Pipeline. Now, for the last two Call of Duties, we've had a pre-order bonus map. Back in Black Ops 2, we had Nuketown 2025. Back in Ghosts, we had Freefall. Now, when I got Black Ops 2, I already had Nuketown 2025 with me at the time because my copy included it. But obviously, later on in the game's life cycle, they gave it to us for free, so then everyone could have it. They did the same thing with Freefall. I didn't get Freefall when I first got Ghosts, but I ended up getting it anyway because they gave it to us for free. With Advanced Warfare, no. It started out being a pre-order bonus map, but then later on, they gave us the ability to obviously get it, but you had to pay for it. Again, I don't agree with that. Why did they decide to do it differently? They should have stuck in Treyarch and Infinity Ward's footsteps and just give it to us for free. I know it's not that much, just paying for that one map, but I didn't agree with the idea, and I'm not going to buy it. So I don't want to pay like £4.99, £3.99, whatever it is, just for that map. Should be cheaper, really. It's just one map. But in my opinion, should have been free just like the other two. Next thing is... we'll talk about... I think, personally, Advanced Warfare should have been the last COD for last gen, just because of... They added in a ton of, like, stuff to the game, which is great. But if you want the most of it, you need to be on next gen, because there's so much stuff that we did not get for last gen. And I just found it funny that they said that they're going to be bringing out Black Ops 3 for last gen as well, but even before the game came out, there was so much stuff that was missing out on. That's why I'm not getting Black Ops 3 for PlayStation 3, because I just know there's going to be so much stuff that I'm going to miss out on. And definitely, this is another point for last gen people. We got our updates for this game so late, because Sledgehammer, obviously, they hired out a studio, High Moon Studios, to give out our updates for both PS3 users and Xbox 360 users, but it was terrible. We would get our updates so late. Sledgehammer would do their updates for next gen, because obviously this game was made for next gen, and games nowadays should just not be made for last gen anymore, because they just can't have the hardware to keep up with it. And another thing is, I definitely see that the next gen copy of this game works so much better because it's obviously made for next gen. This game for last gen can really be slow at times when it's trying to load things. I definitely see that when it's just trying to load out of a game that you've played, or if you're trying to get into a lobby, or trying to load advanced supply drops or normal supply drops. There's just a lot of loading with that, and that's just because of just the import. This game is obviously made for next gen, and it should be next gen. And obviously, updates were just terrible, because they just came out way too late. And actually, no, this is another thing. Obviously, the lobby situation, this is something I've experienced with. That's also changed, because I've said in one of my previous videos that I'm just going to have to stick to hardcore domination because I can't find any lobbies. That's now changed now. Within the last week and the last few days, the lobby situation has changed now all of a sudden. Now I can't find any lobbies with map packs, because I've been playing normal modes like Search and Destroy again, And when I get into these lobbies, map packs never come up. So what it is doing is it's putting me with people who don't have map packs, because I don't see map packs ever come up anymore. If I want to play on those DLC maps, I've got to hopefully find and go into the Grapple playlist to play them. And if I was playing on next gen, I definitely know that would not happen. And the final thing I'll talk about, the sort of negatives. I know there's been quite a lot of negatives, but I don't agree with this last one. When you finish a match, you get 1000 XP if you lose, or 2000 XP if you win. I think that's too little. Definitely too little. It should be based on what your score was, like it was in the other COD games. So then it's always mixed and it's always varied. Because I just think it's a bit silly just getting 1000 XP if you lose, or 2000 if you win. It's never been like that before, and it should be like in the old days, where it's just based on your score and how well that game went for you. And I think also what type of level you are as well. Because I remember during Modern Warfare 2, if you were a low level, you wouldn't get that much XP at first, but as you progress through the levels, you end up getting more. So I think that's the way it should have been done. And that concludes all the sort of things I felt that were wrong with the game and should have been improved. And I'll talk about some of the good things I liked about multiplayer. The customization was very good in this game. I liked all the different gear sets, the weapon variants. I definitely felt it was better to Ghosts. I definitely liked enjoying getting different customization for my character in this game compared to Ghosts. The supply drops, advanced supply drops, that was a cool addition to the game. Not everyone liked them, but I thought they were pretty cool. It was definitely something different. Customizing score streak as well. I didn't do that with all my score streaks, but there were some specific score streaks I definitely would have to customize, like the remote turret, for example. I find that score streak to be useless unless you give it the option where you can just rip the head off and just use it like a death machine, because using it as it's on its own, or putting support on and sentry on, is just useless. It just doesn't get you as many kills, and when I decided to put the option of ripping the head off, I got so much more kills, and I was definitely having way more fun with that score streak. And there's other score streaks as well I like to customize every now and then, like, I don't know, putting AI on some of my score streaks, or using the threat detection on the UAV. Don't do it with every score streak, but some score streaks, it's definitely good that they have the option of customizing. The maps were very good in this game as well. I definitely liked a lot of the maps. There's only a few maps that I wasn't too keen on playing, like, if I think about Instinct, I think about Ascend, Solar, and Core, and Comeback. I think those are the only maps I didn't really enjoy playing on. But all of the other maps, very good, and they definitely looked really nice. They had some really nice colours in them. Definitely better to the Ghost map, which most of the Ghost maps just had some very dull, boring colours. I'm not sure about the DLC maps. I think some maps in Ghost had some nice colours in them, but I didn't buy any of the DLC, so I don't really know too much. With the futuristic setting, we definitely had some futuristic weapons, like laser weapons and direct energy weapons. I mean, guns like the EM1, EPM3, TAC-19, the OHM, AE4, definitely guns we've not seen before. So I definitely like using these types of laser weapons, because it's kind of showing like a different perspective of the future. It's not just normal guns that have got bullets and ammunition in them. We've got these energy weapons as well. I definitely like them. I liked how they also considered to put in classic mode for those people who weren't too sure about the whole exosuits at first. Like I said, I definitely played a lot of classic mode in the beginning stages of Advanced Warfare, and then obviously branched out to exo mode, so it's good that they put classic mode back in. I think they sort of needed to, because obviously it was completely different to anything we'd ever seen before. The prestiges and of the emblems basically looked really good. I liked how the prestige emblems looked in this game. Compare it to Ghost, again, way more better design on them, and the colours were definitely a lot better. I think a couple of favourite prestige emblems I've had were definitely Prestige 6. Prestige 4 was pretty good as well. And definitely Prestige 8. And I'm sure there's some other ones that I'm forgetting, but those are some I can think of off the top of my head that I definitely enjoyed the look of. And the last thing I'll talk about is, this is probably something that I'm just seeing in my own experience, but I kind of liked how I made the transition over to hardcore mode, because there are just some weapons that just work so much better in hardcore mode that I wouldn't use in normal mode, because hardcore mode, they work. So I'm kind of glad that I did eventually make the transition over to playing hardcore. And it's definitely something, like I said in my other videos, I'm definitely going to think about doing. But anyway, that is all I'm going to talk about for the multiplayer. I know I've talked about a lot of stuff, and I'm sure I've missed some things. Because, yeah, I remember trying to think about all the different things I was trying to write for. I'm sure there must have been some things that I may have missed out. But if you feel that there's something that I've missed out on, that you personally think about the game, let me know in the comments section below. And, you know, let me know about some of the other stuff in part 1 as well. Leave that in the comment section below as well. But overall, I think Sledgehammer did a pretty okay job with their first ever game that they worked solo on. It definitely brought me some enjoyment, and I'm still going to continue playing it until obviously I get Black Ops 3 for PlayStation 4. Hopefully I'll get a PlayStation 4 for Christmas, then I can start experiencing what next-gen gaming feels like. But I'm still going to be playing, obviously, because I want to get to that top prestige, even though I'm still quite far off. I'm still going to do it. I've always made it a goal to get to top prestige, and that's something I just want to do. But anyway, I'm going to go wrap up this video now, because I'm sure this part is definitely going to be quite a long part anyway. But I hope you have all enjoyed both parts of this Advanced Warfare review. And if you've liked this video, remember to give it a like rating and subscribe if you are new. And yeah, let me know if there's anything I have missed on both these parts in the comment section below. But for now, it is goodbye from me, and I shall see all of you guys very, very soon with my next video. So take care, guys, and goodbye.